What is going on, awesome people? Today's video is on 10 things that are killing your muscle gains. Number one is ego lifting. I see so many guys and girls, right? I did it when I was a teenager too myself. They go into the gym and they just lift as much weight as they can where their technique and their form breaks down. You're putting yourself at risk for injury. And not only that, you're leaving a lot of gains on the table, which is what we want here, right? Number two, guys, is time under tension, right? The ultimate thing that all scientists agree on here is we want time under tension. We want to stimulate your muscles as much as possible. So if I was doing a bicep curl, for example, we're wanting to squeeze the weight up, and this is why ego lifting fails, right? Because you need to squeeze and really stress out your muscles. And I had a really good personal trainer, Will. He trained with a lot of really big name bodybuilders, and his philosophy was muscle gain were all about your pump, right? So I highly recommend getting some nitric oxide, guys and girls, to really help you achieve nice, fuller and thicker pumps. So you're squeezing your weight up, right? Time under tension and getting a really good pump. And this is where most of the gains are occurring, but you can still leave a lot of gains on the table if you just drop the weight down, right? So you want to keep the tension and the stimulation going and allow the weight to come down with your biceps, not with momentum, right? Number three is sleep. I didn't really get this under control until I would say a couple of years ago in my bodybuilding journey, and I'm still not perfect. And it's because life is not perfect, right? We don't live in a picture perfect world where you're going to get 7-8 hours of sleep every single day during the week, right? Most of the time. So, but if you are intentionally, or you have the choice to go to bed and get 7-8 hours of sleep versus 5 or 6, you're leaving a lot of gains on the table, unfortunately, because growth, we understand with a lot of scientific studies that all of your recovery is where the growth occurs, right? Your growth is not occurring at the gym when you're squeezing your muscles, right? The growth is going to occur when you go home and you sleep and you rest, right? That's where all of your growth is occurring. The next thing that I've heard big names in the industry, right? I heard Brandon Carter say that 90% of your gains are through nutrition. And I want to touch on this, and not just a recovery aspect, because pharmaceutical companies or supplemental companies, they love to just market protein, protein, and protein. We've all heard about protein powder. It just gets thrown in our face all the time. However, your muscles, right, contain a lot of water, and carbohydrates, I feel like myself, are not mentioned enough, right, in bodybuilding and gaining muscle, right? So I highly recommend getting rice, guys. I myself eat rice every single day, right? I'm not going to tell you to do something I don't do myself. So I highly recommend eating rice at least on a daily basis, or getting some form of a healthy carb that you can mix with your protein, right? And another thing too, a lot of girls and females especially, they go to the gym and they don't eat beforehand. There's an NFL strength and conditioning coach, Buddy Morris, and he recommends hydration, right? Hydration is so important, right? It's the fundamental of all strength and conditioning, including muscle gains, right? I would say at least 15. I saw one study that was 17% of your gains, guys, or how much you're lifting at the gym, comes down to hydration. So if you're not properly hydrated, your strength at the gym is going to be reduced by at least 15 to 17%. So you really want to hydrate and have a really good pre-workout meal before you go and work out, so you can really perform at your best. Now, the next one is repetitions. For so long, including myself, almost a decade, I always just saw on the internet 8 to 12 reps is the range you want to do to build muscles. And a lot of doctors and really educated and really brilliant bodybuilders are now coming out and admitting the truth that you can go from 15 to even 30 reps and still achieve muscle growth. And if you are an advanced bodybuilder and you are not doing at least 15 reps, I'm going to explain why you're leaving a lot of gains on the table. So when I would train with Will, my personal trainer I mentioned earlier, he always had me do 10, 12 reps. But it was because I was at an intermediate level, right? So a lot of guys, what they'll do is they just automatically think I need to do 12 reps to gain muscle. This is not true, right? I believe it was X-Lean athlete or one of the big name, right, fitness influencers on YouTube that even said there are no scientific studies besides maybe one or two that discuss 12 reps. And the idea behind this is all about time under tension for 3 seconds, right? 3 seconds, 3 seconds, time under tension for a 12 rep range. So if you guys are beginners, you really want to aim for 8 reps. And then our bodies, the human body, right? The human body is so adaptable. The human body it just changes and adapts so quick. Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen his video on how to build muscle mass. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the all-time great, he admitted you need to shock and surprise your muscles. That's how you achieve huge amounts of muscle growth, is through shocking, right, and surprising your muscles, because your body is so adaptable. And that is another point I have here. So many people do the same thing. So what you want to achieve here is you start off with 8 reps as a beginner, and then you're going up to 10 reps. And by the time you've been training for at least 3 or 5 years, you need to be doing 15 to 20 reps. And it's because you cannot be doing the same amount, right, same reps over and over again. Now, if your weight is increasing slightly while maintaining good time under tension, you're okay. However, the idea behind this is, right, you're doing time under tension and you're doing more reps at the same time to put even more stimulation on your muscles, because you are now an advanced lifter, right? Another point is form, right? We've discussed form. Even everybody, there's no ego here. We can all fine tune our form, right? Tricep extensions are a really big one. I've been really working on those myself lately, trying to fine tune every little small thing, because at the end of the day, it's the small things that add up to the big things, right? So I highly recommend a personal trainer just to have an extra set of eyes, just really review all your movements, right? Oftentimes we feel like, oh, we've been training for years, I'm doing everything perfect. And then you get a personal trainer, right, an extra set of eyes, and we find out there's a lot of things we can fine tune. And those little things add up to big gains that are being left on the table. It was Dana White, the UFC president, that admitted he wasted 20 years. 20 years. Can you imagine that? 20 years of his life by not having a personal trainer. And the whole idea, what Dana White's doing, is having a personal trainer that can shock and surprise his muscles and keep track of his progress, right, guys? Another one I'm going to end on, very similar things, are supersets and drop sets, right? People don't utilize these. I had a high school science teacher that specialized in physical education, and she would always recommend a pyramid scheme, right? And I'm not talking about the financial pyramid scheme, right? I'm talking about a lifting one, right? Where you start off with 15 reps, right? And a lower amount of weight. And then you go to 12 reps, a slightly increased amount of weight. And it's like a pyramid, right? This is very, very good. And this is where a drop set comes in, right? Where you're not resting, right? You're doing, let's say, 20 pounds on the bicep curls, and then you're going straight from 20 pounds to, let's say, 15 pounds. And a lot of guys, you can do 20 pounds, and then when your biceps, you feel like can't do anymore, you do like half reps, right? You're doing like half reps. Or you're on the bench press and you feel like you can't do anymore, so you get up, you take off a little bit of weight real quick, and you just keep going, right? This is great. I prefer drop sets. You can also do, as I mentioned, partial reps, where you feel like you can't do any more weight on the bench press. So you just kind of do, like half reps, right? Now, there have been some recent scientific studies on this that partial reps and don't really activate any real muscle growth. I'm just going off the science. So you got to do what works best for you, right? Partial reps, or if you want to take off a little bit of weight and do drop sets. And then we have supersets, where you're doing a bench press, and then right away after you're done, there's no rest. You just go straight to a lat pull. And my father used to describe this, without making it too, fancy or scientific, that basically you have your chest that's pulling or pushing this way, and then you're pulling back with your lats, where you have this contradiction that just stimulates all kinds of growth, right? Right, put simply. These are 10 points, guys, that are really, really killing your muscle gains and leaving a lot of those gains on the table that we all want, right? So these are the 10 answers to all of these things that I highly recommend if you really want to stimulate your muscle growth naturally. You all have a great day, and thanks for watching.